Innovative strategies when it comes to financial literacy. Today, that's live. Bill.
Hey, good morning.
Morning.
Welcome back. Thanks for everybody checking in. Seeing today, we are talking about That's Life, because
It's all right, Pete. He's on the close-up camera. Nobody can see.
That's Life is really, what happens to us all the time here. Unfortunately, in my business, I have too many stories that I could bring up. But the most recent one I think I mentioned last week was my wife's uncle.
Yeah.
Who was given a very short time to live, and his wife, our aunt, was not an all-knowing of what was going on. He was a CPA, so he kind of took care of all the monies and everything. Unfortunately, he did pass last week, and so his last couple of weeks he was really on morphine and to help ease him through the pain of pancreatic cancer, and that's unfortunate as well, because she was not able to get all the passwords and sign-ins for all the accounts and whatnot. So it is now a mad scramble to find out where everything is and how to get to it, and whether or not you need a power of attorney, which she doesn't have. So she may not need that, but I'll be heading up there to help her out this coming weekend.
Yeah, they say you shouldn't keep your passwords on a piece of paper or something like that. However, one of the founding fathers here of 21/6 Net, when he had liver cancer, he set a time and he gave his wife all the past logins and passwords to everything. That's an important part of the plan.
Yeah, if you have the time. I mean, so my wife's father passed from pancreatic cancer, and you would have thought her uncle, his brother, would have paid a little bit more attention, and he had said that he did not feel well for 2 years.
Well,
and your brother died from pancreatic cancer, and you didn't really spend the time to go to the doctors and get it checked out until the very last minute. Yeah. But my father-in-law was very, very well prepared, and he had about 10 months. So he was in a different situation because he was, seeing a doctor and such. But, so some people are better prepared than others. But it's not uncommon for one spouse to be the money person or the finance person in the family, and the other spouse to be not as knowledgeable, let's say, or in the dark about all that is going on, and they just feel, well, everything's good.
Yeah,
bills are paid. We don't have anybody knocking on our door to take our keys. Nobody's in the driveway trying to take your car back, so life must be good. And that is, just as I said, it's all too common. Spouses don't talk about it, and don't teach your kids.
Well, and that's a tough thing, right? In most houses or most relationships, I guess, it is in mine. I work at a bank, but I don't touch the money at home. That's right. Alice's deal, right? Because before I started working in the financial industry, I was just horrible with money. I'm the man, I'll pay the bills, and then I didn't pay the bills, and that was pretty stressful.
Yeah, from my world, when I was in the trading pits, we tried to separate our assets and put them in our wives' names, because back in those days that the rules and regulations were, if I got in trouble or all of a sudden I had a bad trade and I lost everything, at least all the assets are in the wife's name and not mine.
Yeah.
So you were thinking that you were protecting yourself. That doesn't really work anymore. They've kind of changed those rules and laws, and just like they've changed the rules and laws about whether I put my money in a Swiss bank account or the Grand Caymans.
That's
all
right.
Those rules and things have changed now. Instead of doing those worlds, it's cryptocurrency world, right?
Yeah.
But that's life. I mean, think about other things that's life that people probably don't even understand that how their lives are going to change going forward. We have an interesting government right now, the federal government, that passed a $3.5 trillion package yesterday.
Infrastructure, yeah.
Well, I don't know if it includes the $1 trillion for the infrastructure or not, because I haven't been able to. It just came out this morning that it was passed, so I haven't been able to look that up. But let's say it includes the trillion for the infrastructure. Right. So $3.5 trillion. They've already printed $4 trillion, $7.5 trillion in the first year. They're printing out. It's mind-boggling. mind-boggling. How does that going to affect our lives? Well, you think inflation's there or not there right now? It depends upon who you talk to. Go to the gas station, you'll learn inflation is there, but I think this will fuel that inflation.
Yeah, well, and
forward.
the Fed's meeting today, right? I mean, today is when the Fed's meeting to see how inflation is going, and if it's going to be a long-term thing.
Well, and that's interesting too. I think I've brought this up in the past on the show. In my day, back in the 80s, in the interest rate futures, Alan Greenspan was the Fed governor, and the man was a master. He was a magician. He was unbelievable at controlling inflation and deflation. Just excellent. We used to have to learn how to read. We called it green speak, and that was learning to read between his lines, because he was a master at what he said and how he said it, because he knew his words would influence markets tremendously. So he was very careful and very good. Nowadays, after decades and decades of front running things like inflation and deflation, our Fed governor has decided that we will not front run it anymore, that we will chase it. And as I've said, it's kind of like grabbing the tail of a lion. Good luck with that. Good luck catching up and keeping up, because even when you do front run it, you're still running hard and chasing. Because the government's. So when inflation goes up, interest rates are going to change, because we're going to have to, raise the interest rates and slow down the expenditures of money. All right. So we want to slow down the flow of money, and that'll help bring inflation back into a more acceptable area or zone, if you want to put it. But when you print money like they've been printing, and you put that money out there into the world, people start spending and spending and spending. And, we're giving people so much free money now.
Well,
that you can't
air quote that free money.
Yeah, I should air quote that free money. But it is. It's a lot of money going out now, and you see it everywhere, because we see it. You go to a restaurant, right? You have a hard time getting servers, or good servers, especially. And I had my son's engagement party 2 weeks ago, and I had it catered, or I went to the store and picked up the food and brought it home and warmed it up in curbside. What a nightmare that was. I mean, there was a point in time when I got there and didn't think I was going to actually get all the food to feed 60 people that were coming to look for, expecting to be fed. Right. And you don't go over and call the pizza guy, because he can't make 30 pizzas, that fast. But it's and if you think they're going to print all this money and not find a way to get it back, I mean, you can't just say we're just going to print it. You got to say we're going to print it because we know we got it coming in somewhere.
Well, and it's, for those of you who aren't financial wizards, just think of supply and demand.
Yeah.
Right. So the less money that's printed, the higher the value. Right. The more money that's printed,
the lower the value. Absolutely. And a lower U.S. dollar value, it devalues all the currencies. It's long term. It does. Yeah. Short term, it gives foreign currencies and other currencies a little bit of a boost, but it's very short term.
Right.
So they're going to get it back, right? So how do you think they get it back? What's the best way for a government to get money back from you?
We in the banking industry call it fees.
Yeah, those of us on the street, we call it taxes.
That's right.
You call it fees, we call it taxes. Right. So I would be looking to see taxes increasing, both corporate and personal.
And personal, yeah. And that's an important thing to consider, because a lot of people don't plan, or a lot of people who maybe have expected large income tax returns, now that's going to shrink.
Or you might wind up paying.
Right.
Whereas you were expecting a return before. You and I had discussed this, because people are getting that $250, $300 per child stipend that they think, oh, cool, this is great. It's like, well, no, because now you don't get that deduction, when you go to do your taxes next year, because the deduction was already given to you.
Right. And you've got the government directly in your account every month now instead of once a year. Right?
Well, at least it says obvious now.
Right.
I mean, before it was a little sneaky, but now it's obvious.
Right. Right. So as we take a look at life and you know the backside of that, and I'm so sorry, you know, about your uncle, your wife's uncle. So the question is, as you're making your plan, it's never going to happen to me. You don't want to think of that. That's a, you know, and as we've discussed a few weeks ago, you know, the benefit is you know, the life benefit of an insurance product is, you know, that's bonus if you're using the strategies that you're suggesting. So how do you, as a couple, how do you walk people through that conversation? Because it's never going to happen to me.
Yeah, it's I've never met anybody who thinks that they're going to ever need long-term care or you know, buy term and invest the rest, and they actually do it. You know, and you know, the different insurance products are used for different reasons. And if you're buying an insurance product, you better have a very specific reason for why you're buying it. And the person selling it to you better make sure you understand why you're buying that product. Because I review many policies and can tell you that I'm trying to think of somebody that I've met that actually knew what they had, but I can't think of anybody off the top of my head right now. Right. People just say, you know, I have my one neighbor friend, you know, yeah, I pay that thing every month and I hate it. It's the worst bill every month I pay. Yeah. I said, well, then you don't know what you have, or what you have isn't the right product. So that's your advisor's mistake. His advisor happens to be a family member. So I, you know, go back and find out, or give it to me. Let me do a review for you, and I'll tell you what it's all about. Right. I do that quite often. But yeah, people just don't think that anything's going to happen to them, and so the conversations usually revolve around, okay, well, first of all, it's what's important to you, right? And what's important to you going forward. What's important to you for in retirement. And number one is, you know, how much money am I going to have? Yeah. Number two is how long is it going to last? So it revolves around that. But when you get into the insurance side, you have to look at, well, what's your family history? And like I just said, my father-in-law passed from pancreatic cancer. His brother, 7 years later, at the same age, passes away from pancreatic cancer. Now you can bet that my son and his cousins and such are all concerned. Oh. You know, going forward, this is something they have to pay attention to in life, and that's smart thinking. Yeah, unfortunately, it's a scare type of tactic, which I'm very much against using, but that's life. You know, and it's unfortunate that life is and can be scary. Yeah.
And as you look at that, do you, not just the husband and wife, but, you know, do you take a look at, you know, do you help the adult children understand the plan as well? Or do you include them, or do you suggest?
Well, obviously it depends on how old they are and whether or not they're even in the home. I mean, a lot of people, the majority of people I wind up meeting with are people who are, their children are graduating college, and then it's like, okay, what's next in life? Oh, retirement. Where do I stand? I have no idea. We did that last week. Where are you at? Yeah. And people just, I just been plugging money into my 401k and putting it away, and I got a hope and a prayer that it's enough, or I've got this pension that's going to pay me for life. Well, okay, but a pension, you're going to get offered typically a buyout for a pension. And it's not a bad thing to look at, because one thing you want to really study is the validity and of the business. Is the business strong? Is it going to last? Because if it goes out of business and it goes bankrupt,
bye-bye.
You know, you could lose that pension.
Or a huge chunk of it.
Right. You know, and then there's options. Maybe you take that money out and you put it into an annuity, which is going to guarantee payouts for life as well. Right, but annuity might give you a 5 to 10% bonus for buying it. So you get a $300,000 payout in pension from your company, or you take that $300,000, buy this annuity, get 30 grand on that 10% bonus, and then you start getting paid out on that. You might get a little bit more money per month. It's not going to be a lot because it's paying out for life, but and how you win in that game. Typically, the average age of men is about 87 and change, and women are 89 and change. So an annuity will look at that as a time frame, and what's your age now versus that age, and then they divide the money up and how that's going to pay out. Now you win if you live longer, and we are living longer.
Yeah,
it's but living longer brings its own challenges.
We may not know that we're living longer.
We may not.
Dementia.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but typically you got a plan.
Yeah.
For living longer, and ask anybody. I just ask yourselves, how am I going to make my money last for 30 years? How am I going to do that without a plan?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to wing it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you turn 65 and you got to start figuring out Medicare, and it's like, well, this is complicated. I go, you're just getting started.
Yeah. So as you look at that, then. And you talk about diversification. How diverse should you be? I mean, now we've got cryptocurrency coming in. What percentage do I put in that? What percentage do I put in life insurance? I mean, how?
Well, crypto's pure play money.
Yeah,
that's pure play money. You don't play that game to try and generate return to pay for your retirement. You may get fortunate enough to do so, but it's pure play money. It's not anything an advisor would advise somebody to get involved in as a serious part of your portfolio. But portfolio. So really, what you want to look at, you want to try and take. Today we'd have 401k. Back in the 80s, they developed a 401k plan, and we started getting rid of pensions. Now, very few people have pensions, and many who have them they're very small. Pay
unless you're a government employee or something.
Yeah, teachers still get pensions, and firemen and policemen and whatnot. They still get pensions, military and things like that. But yeah, that's government. But we got rid of that. And when we got rid of that and went to 401ks, what we did was we just took out the insurance side of protecting that money. And we just said, okay, you got a 401k. Now it's your problem to save money. We're no longer taking on that situation for you. It's your problem. And the problem with it is when you get rid of the insurance side, it's 100% at risk. A 401k is 100% at risk. They talk about dollar cost averaging and how 401ks are the best for that because it takes money every 2 weeks out of your paycheck and puts it into the market, and therefore you average in when the market goes down and when the market goes up, and you're buying at different levels. And that's true, and it's fine. It's a good point. But the reality is you're 100% at risk. So a good advisor will try and find a way to bring that pension-like scenario back into play. So in other words, you have to introduce insurance. You have to protect your assets. How do you protect the monies in the market? You do it through something like a whole life policy that has cash value. And you hear me talk about this every week. Last week I was talking about using that cash value as a bank to eliminate your debt and to recapture the monies you're spending out on such things as interest. But it's also used for income and retirement. So let's say you're 75 years old and the market drops 40%. We've seen that happen, and in our lifetime a couple of times. What you do, instead of taking money out, another 5% and making the pain even bigger, and what happens then is it makes it harder for that money to come back, and so it reduces the life of the monies you have. You may not have the time for that money to come back. Well, we've seen markets bounce back pretty strong and pretty fast and last for a while, but so it can happen. But so what you do is you pull out the cash that you need to live that year out of your insurance policy. It's a loan. It's tax-free. You don't have to pay it back. because it's your money. And let's say you pull out 30, because you have to understand this part of your income is not 100% of your income, right? You still have
Right.
Social Security. You may have other assets that are providing you income, and that's what you sit down and figure out. How much do you need per month to live on? Let's say it's $5,000 a month. All right, well, $2,500 is coming from Social Security from my wife and I and our work. Okay, so where are we going to find the other $2,500? Well, it's going to be in your investments most likely. Maybe you started and you were really smart. You started young with a whole life policy, and you've got a lot of cash value. Maybe you can pull some out of that, but you typically would purchase an annuity to make up that difference, so that you're guaranteed for life to get that $5,000 a month. You can use inflationary riders if you want to, but again, as you get older, you're probably going to spend less. Most people think, my first 5-10 years of retirement, I'm just going to whip it up, going to travel, I'm going out to dinner, and have a lot of fun. And that's typically what folks do. But what they don't realize is after that, when you start to get older and you slow down and you're not doing that anymore, you think, I'm not going to be spending as much money. Well, actually, you probably will be, because now it's going to be spending money on your health. And actually, those costs can go higher.
So, taking a look at that, there's lifestyle, right? And you got to kind of choose what kind of lifestyle you want when you retire and where you're going, right? But there are people out there who say, well, you know what, I'm going to have fun for that first 10 years and my kids can take care of me. And we see that a lot now too, right? Where, mom and dad or grandma and grandpa have moved in with kids. And
yeah, it's been an interesting times in our generation, because it's, typically you grow up, right? Your kids go to college, they leave, they're gone.
Yep.
But all of a sudden in our lifetime, we're seeing 45 to 55-year-olds that are moving back home with mom and dad.
Yep.
And then we get a little bit later in life, and now you're seeing the parents coming back to live with their children, and the purpose of that is obviously to save money.
There was a great comedian back in the 70s by the name of Bill Cosby.
Then he was fine.
Right. He said, humans are the only animals who allow the babies to come back to the nest after they kicked them out.
Yeah, exactly. And, it was funny, because I know my son, when he went away to college, he said, Dad, I'm not coming home. I'll make sure I can take care of myself. And he's done fantastic.
That's
he's
great.
done just what he said he would do. My daughter's done the same.
My kids are doing the same, which is good.
Yeah. But not all people are as fortunate. Because that's life, right? Life happens.
Right. So when you take a look at that, how often do people, as we take a look at innovative strategies, how often do people change their lifestyle? So in other words, my lifestyle was, I worked hard. I enjoyed life. I don't have a lot of debt. But my lifestyle was working around the house and then maybe golfing once or twice a week, whatever.
Yeah.
All of a sudden I retire and now I go travel the world. My lifestyle has totally changed. How do you help people understand lifestyle or lifestyle changes, or, when you're looking at strategies?
Life evolves, right? We get out of college, we get that, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year job.
Yeah.
You grind it out, and as you get older and more mature and more into your job or changing jobs, you wind up acquiring more money, right? You get a higher salary, better pay, better bonuses, better perks, things of that nature. And the problem is we learn to live at those levels.
Yes.
So we keep, and next thing you know, you're 50 years old. Now you're making $120,000 a year. And guess what? You're spending $120,000 a year. You're living that lifestyle. So the hard thing for most people, and I'm as guilty as anybody, but is to learn how to, when you get those big bonuses or when you get those big raises, to think about, how can I put some of this away? Because I'm not used to having it anyway.
Right.
And there are people that are very good at that, but not many.
No.
We learn to live at the level at which our income allows us to live.
Right. Instead of paying the car off,
And
I
we-
go get a more expensive one.
And we still create debt.
Right.
And we still have to live on debt.
Yeah. I can now afford a $500 a month car payment.
You know,
Let me go get that.
remember waking up one day and all of a sudden you look in the driveway and there's 2 cars and it's a house and you're just like, how did I get here?
I would love to wake up in the morning and only see 2 cars in the driveway.
Yeah, I have some neighbors that have like 5 or 6.
All right. Oh, yeah.
But so it's, again, we just kind of muddle our way through lives because we just don't understand. We're not taught financial
We
literacy.
sure are.
And so we just muddle our ways through lives. You talk about parents moving back in with the kids, that might be a strategy both for the parents and the kids. Maybe the parents are helping the kids out a little bit by, covering a part of the mortgage or paying for the groceries, and the parents are getting relief because they don't have that mortgage or they don't have that rent and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's a strategy, but, I don't know anybody who plans that type of strategy.
Yeah. Well, actually, there's a builder in the Chicagoland area who one of their models has an apartment and a 1-car garage attached to a ranch-style home just for that purpose. So now it's becoming more commonplace as a strategy to say, okay, instead of the long-term care, perhaps we're going to put mom and dad, perhaps, here in the little apartment.
And it works great for a little while. But you brought up long-term care.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you really have to take care of somebody who is ill, it's draining.
Yeah.
And it gets to a point where you can't do it. It's very, very common for a spouse to take care of a husband or a wife to take care of the other when they become ill at home. And it gets to the point where they're exhausted.
Yeah.
And then they become ill. And they have issues. Now you've got 2 family members down and healthcare is not cheap. And, then the family's got to jump in. That interrupts your family. That interrupts their life that's going on. They have to drop everything and jump in and help.
Yeah.
And it may cost money out of their pocket as well that they may not have extra of because they're leaving, or taking a leave of absence from their job. And this is not uncommon.
Right.
Or they're taking a month off or 2 months off to try and figure out what to do because they didn't plan for it.
Yep. Of course, folks, you're listening to Innovative Strategies here at 216 The Net. You can reach Bill at haase.bill@gmail.com for any questions you may have. You can also shoot us questions at 216thenet@gmail.com. Anything for Bill as far as it goes on innovative strategies. Of course, Bill, years and years and years in the financial industry, and not just as an insurance guy, not just as a financial advisor, but you were in the pits. You've played the gamut pretty well, and have created some incredible strategies and innovative strategies. Some, I don't want to say out of the box, but maybe towards the corners of the box, thinking that are unique and have really helped a lot of people. So
that hopefully, that's the goal. The ultimate goal is just to help people. It's not about a specific. There's no. You don't put a whole portfolio together overnight. You don't put a whole plan together for life overnight. Right. It evolves, and it evolves through discussion. It evolves through understanding what are concerns and issues, and solving those things, and then protection and things of that nature. But and like we said, there's no plan that's perfect, right? You have to keep on it. You have to check it out because, again, life happens.
That's life.
And when it does, make adjustments.
Yep.
And make changes because typically when life happens, that's typically meaning something's going to cost you some money.
Yeah. And I was chatting with somebody about the show and about what you do. And, that's what I said as I go, I don't want you to think that he's an out of the box thinker because he's not a radical,
Yeah.
But we've all had that, vehicle that we weren't using every option in that vehicle. And you're like, oh, that's what that's for. Right. And those are the innovative things when we talk about innovative strategies that you're showing them, like, hey, you just got to hit this button here.
Yeah. Let's look at 401ks. Yeah. So 401ks are very limiting, right? They don't have a whole lot of options for you. A very popular option nowadays are the target date. And so you pick a year, 2035, 2040, 2045, 2050, and you pick that year and you put all your money into that. And what that investment vehicle does is, depending upon how many years you have, will determine the percentage of what's involved in the market versus what's involved in non-risk side, like bonds.
Yeah.
All right. And as you get older and closer to that target date, it takes you more and more out of the risk side and puts you more into the risk-free side. So it's a great idea. I can argue that some of the things it doesn't help you with is what if those later years are the years that the market does its best and you're not involved in it? So that would be kind of a little painful, where you could have had a better lifestyle. So your options are limited, but most people don't even look at the prospectus of what your options are. They don't look at what the investments have done over historically, even though we do have to say that history does not predict the future. But you do need to, do some homework on that.
Yeah.
What do they cost? How much does it cost per year? How much does it cost to get in? And again, you're still limited. So, but again, take advantage of 401k, because typically you're getting some type of match. And they're getting very innovative about how they're matching. It used to be, I'll match you 5%. You put 5% in, we'll match you 5%. So you would say, absolutely, get your 5% in there and get that 5% from the company. Well, no problem there. But now they're getting a little more innovative, and they're saying, okay, well, you got to put 5% in, and we'll give you 1.5%. And the strategy, I think, is a little bit on the side of 401ks haven't worked so well. They're trying to force people to put more money into them because they don't put enough in, and it doesn't replace that pension that we used to get. So some of that is part of that strategy. But if you get your money into a Roth or an IRA, you have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of choices.
But at the same time, we've allowed people to believe that owning a home is the American dream. So you can tap into that 401k for your down payment, without any penalty, because it's your first home.
Yeah, but remember, it's a loan.
Right.
You got to pay that back. And it's kind of like just the bank. They don't let you skip a month.
No.
They take it right out of your paycheck.
Yep.
So, that you're doubling down on loans.
But it's not the way that it's sold. And
everybody's like, yeah, but I got it for 3%. I got a loan for 3%. I buy $300,000 home. Like, guess what? That first year, you're paying somewhere between 70 and 80% interest.
Yep.
Just look at your P&I, principal and interest statement.
It's
all going to interest in the front end.
That's right.
Because the bank wants their money first, and that's how we've always done business. And we just go with the flow.
Yeah.
And that's to me, that's a problem. We have always gone with the flow. And why do we do that? Because we won't take the time to learn. We don't have the options. I mean, we're not taught in school. We're not taught at home. So those who are more financially savvy are people who actually went out and took the time and made the effort to make themselves more savvy.
That's right.
And there's lots of wonderful folks out there that have done that. And that's their thing. But then there's other folks that's like, I'm not a numbers person. Fair enough. But again, then talk to somebody who is. I'm not an auto mechanic. I bring my car to the shop.
Right.
That kind of mentality. So
I don't necessarily like those, because they've been known to take advantage of people, right? But I think that your innovative strategy helps people understand that I don't know, and it's okay for me to tell you, Bill, I don't have a clue.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I appreciate that, because it makes me make sure that when I'm in discussions and talking to you about the strategies, that I'm very thorough, and that I stop to make sure if you have any questions, and that most importantly, that you understand what I'm talking about. And if there's a certain product, like I said, with the insurance, so make sure you know what you're getting.
So, and you have to understand too, that the more input you get sometimes isn't necessarily the best input. So um, I'm in the I do mortgages, as a lot of people know. So I'm a mortgage lender, and a great friend of mine, is thinking about refinancing his home. So I'm like, hey, send me your address. I'll give you a home valuation. That I've got this tool that
Right. Yep. I know the tool.
and so I use this, and I say, here's what your house is, valuing at. Then he calls a realtor friend, and the realtor friend, who doesn't know me, goes, "What is this guy, an idiot? He doesn't know what he's doing."
Yeah. Right.
So my buddy relays that to me, and I'm like, "Well, then you should work with a different lender, because." Yeah, I do know what I'm doing, and I'll send
Right.
you the report, that I get from this tool. And I was surprised that a realtor who doesn't do lending would have an opinion about that, right?
You'll even find that with people who are lenders.
Yeah.
I find that so. I get a call yesterday from one of my team members that handles my investment side of things because, as you know,
Yeah.
I don't carry my securities license anymore. And he's panicked because one of my clients decided he talked to some other advisor, and the advisor told him that the investment that we got him into was no good and costly and whatever. And so he panicked and wants to get out. And I'm like, okay, let me get this straight. He talked to another guy. Said, well, what did he say was so bad about it? Well, it's bad. It's bad and it's too expensive. I said, okay. So what does he want you to do? He wants you to get out, which may or may not have a penalty fee, and give him the money so he can invest it into something he thinks is a better investment and charge you more commissions and fees.
Makes good sense.
I said, how does that sound? I said, no. The team member that's handling this for me, he provided the client with all the information and said, look, here's what's going on, and here's how really wonderful this investment is for you. And we all sat down, and he was in total agreement and total understanding of what he was getting into and what he's doing. But again, because we don't really know finances all that well, and somebody else comes and talks to us and says your baby's ugly, come over here and I'll make her beautiful again. Be careful.
Yeah.
Be careful because, as in any industry, there are bad apples.
Well, yeah. And where are you getting your information from?
Where are you getting it from? I show it to me.
Right.
I mean, prove to me what this guy says.
Yeah.
And why you believe it. Why is this so easy for you to believe that this is true? But it happens. It's like I mentioned to you. I have no interest in ever stealing a client from any other advisor. I do have an interest in helping advisors enhance what they bring to the table with their clients. I have worked with other advisors because many, like I said, most are either on the financial side or the insurance side, and not many understand the value of both, bringing both into the play and bringing them both into the same game so that they have the same goals. And so that's something that I can do. But in no way, shape, or form do I want to steal that client from another advisor and take away all the work and hard work they've done.
Yeah. Well, and that's just
unless I find they've cheated.
Yeah, that's salespeople just trying to make their money.
It really is. But and you'd be surprised because I have run over a number of times, and it's a major pet peeve of mine. But I have found many people show me their financial statements, quarterly statements, and I just said I don't need one, I need 4. I need last year. I want to see patterns.
Yeah. And
patterns show me whether or not you're being, let's say, abused. We call it churn and burn in the business. Just churn and burn, meaning roll them over. Keep making new investments. Get them out of this one, put them into this one. Get them out of that one, put them back into this one, and go back and forth. And I have seen statements where they do that, and it's simply just to generate commissions. And I'll guarantee you, 90+% of people who let's just say the ones that open the statements can't read them. They don't know what the fee is. They don't know what they're paying. They don't know if they paid out commissions. They don't understand that. All they understand is this where it started? at the beginning of the quarter, and here's where it's at the end of the
Yeah.
quarter. And if it's higher, I'm happy, and if it's lower, it's like, what happened?
We used to do that back in a younger life when I was twisting high interest loans. Hey, Bill, how about you'd like to skip a payment? We'll
Right.
start this loan all over.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's and we talk about. It's funny because I heard that the commercial coming in today, car commercial, and it says, "Come on in, we're gonna drop it $1,000. We're gonna knock another $1,000 off the price of this car, and you won't have a payment until December."
Yeah.
Well, I thought cars were hard to get now. I've been hearing in the media that you can't find cars. Used cars are like as expensive as new cars,
That's
and
right.
it's like, well, wait a minute. Mixed messages, and we get these all the time.
Yeah.
In all kinds of areas, but mixed messages, and it's easy for people to buy into one side or the other, simply because that's what they believe.
Yeah.
And the belief has no basis of truth. It's just a belief, and we can't change morals, values, and beliefs in people. So that's a very difficult part of what I do in trying to help people understand. And what I found is that the thing that works best is common sense and logic. Hard to have an argument against somebody who's using common sense and logic.
Yeah.
You can fight it, and if you want to fight that, that's okay. I'm not your advisor.
That's right.
I don't want to be.
Right.
Do not call.
Well, you can have fun with that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to, I kind of want to go back to that, that house situation where they're now, we would call it an in-law suite or something of that nature from back in the day. How important is it to chat with your financial advisor, if you're thinking about doing that?
Great question. I think any time you are going to make a life-altering decision, one that is going to potentially cost you monies, you should run it by your advisor. Just say, hey, what's your opinion? I mean, you can say, hey, we're going to do this, but just say, but maybe we should learn what all the effects might be, at least financially, because I had a neighbor that did this, and they built out a room in the basement, and then they took their dining room upstairs and turned that into a den for her father, and it was beautiful, good work done and everything else. But when they went to sell the house, it doesn't have a dining room. Now, personally, I could do without my dining room. I got another bump out room I use, so that it's a waste of space for me, and maybe it is for others. But reality is you're trying to sell a home, people expect to have a dining room, and they don't expect there to be walls in places that there typically wouldn't normally be in a home, because there's a hallway to get into the door to go to the basement. And then there's that outside stairs that they had to put in with the door, because they had to have an escape for him, and climbing a ladder out of a window well isn't going to do it for an 89-year-old guy, right?
No.
So, it changes things.
Yeah.
They spend a lot of money, and they have the money to spend, but again, it's a lot of effort, and typically costs time and money. And then you got health issues you got to think about too. Can you handle taking care of somebody who's not quite capable of taking care of themselves anymore?
Yeah.
And I don't want to go into details about that, but it's what happens, because then we're right back to the story of that it drags you down.
Well, and I appreciate what you're saying, because a lot of times we look at it and it's a good idea. And when I'm, 50 and my mom and dad are 80, hey, that's a good idea. And then in my heart, that's a great idea to take care of the ones that I love.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I don't look 10 years down the road, when they're 90.
Yeah, I many people, I'm sure, do think about the financial side of it, and they look at it and they go, okay, well, if mom and dad are coming to move back in with me, they're getting Social Security, they've got the Medicare, and they've got the insurance coverage and whatnot, and stuff, and they may have other forms of income that could go towards your household to help you benefit. Or maybe you buy a bigger house to make that happen, or maybe you buy one of these builders who's doing these new homes to do it. So you can combine your funds and your finances, and it may prove beneficial.
Yeah. Well, we got a
But,
caller. Sorry about that.
No worries. But yeah, it's important to when you're making any type of life-altering decision, it's important to talk to somebody, it's like an advisor, just to see what can I expect.
Well, and you have helped a lot of people, and I know this to be true. You got people who come to you for, hey, they've got millions of dollars, and they go, I'm thinking about buying a new Ford F-150. Can I afford that?
True, very true. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but those are the
those
are the kind of questions you want to work with you on. Is to say,
it helps. It's funny. Somebody who doesn't have that kind of money and they want to go buy that new truck and they're going to finance 90% of it.
I can get approved. That's all I think.
Yeah, I'm pre-approved. Well, that's not pre-qualified. That's pre-approved.
Right.
Difference between what's written down on paper and what you said out of your mouth.
That's right.
But so you have to live life too.
Yeah,
you have to enjoy life. I mean, it's not all about where does every single dollar go? And there's programs all over the internet for that, right? And it's not a bad thing to go through that process for a little bit in life, just because once you realize where your money goes, you just sit there and go, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I spent $300 last month at Starbucks, on coffee.
Yeah, we did that once for a month. We tracked our expenses, and I think we spent $1,500 eating out in a month. I've got a big family, right? I've got 4 kids.
Yeah, and eating out's not cheap. I don't care where you go.
No.
Fast food is not cheap.
No.
A family.
It's not good.
A family with 4 kids, you got 6 people going out to dinner. You even go to McDonald's. It's
$60,
$70,
right.
$50, $60, $70, depending upon how hungry everybody is. And that's ridiculous. But I talked to my barber, Miss Gal, a wonderful gal, and she was telling me the other day, she's like, I spend $300-400 a month on Amazon.
Oh, Amazon is crack.
And I'm like, okay, well, and she's like, what do you think I really should do with it? I said, well, if you can, put $300 or $400 away in Amazon, maybe you could take 200 of it and put it into some type of investment or something. She's very interested in this cryptocurrency play that I got going on, and I said, well, that's $1,000 to get started, and she's like, okay, so that's what, 3 months. I don't buy on Amazon, and I'm like, that's up to you. This is play money, as I said. Yeah. Cryptocurrencies are pure play money.
Yeah.
But very interesting world. You want to talk about thinking outside the box. How cryptocurrencies work is definitely not in the box for anybody I know, including myself.
So, just kind of going with that, Gal, do you set benchmarks for people? Say, hey, here's what we're trying to do, and hopefully by this we'll be at this point. And is that why people freak out if the market drops a little because they don't necessarily have those?
Well, so it reminds me, be wary of advisors that show you hypothetical situations versus guaranteed situations. I was involved with a friend of mine who wanted to buy a $500,000 annuity. Great commission on that.
Sure.
Commission somewhere around $18,000, $20,000. I showed him a guaranteed annuity, and his other advisors showed him a hypothetical. The hypothetical got him $100 more a month for life. So he liked that one better. I said, okay. I said, but you do understand it's hypothetical. Let's look at this one. And it's basically, it used the best years in the history of the market as an illustration. Well, okay. Do you feel that going forward, you're going to see those kinds of returns in the market? Now, that's what we've been seeing.
Yeah.
So we're all kind of a little bit asleep.
Jaded,
We're complacent. Yeah. And we're a little bit asleep because the market's been great for us for a while. But he didn't grasp that at all. The only thing he saw was it was $100 more a month of guaranteed, or of not guaranteed, but of income, hypothetical income. Now, I told him, I said, now, if if the market performs the way that says, I will probably get you more than that. My annuity will do better than that. I'm basing mine on a conservative viewpoint. So I'm guaranteeing you this minimum. He came back to me and said, well, you can sell that other one for me, can't you? To me. And I said, I can. And he said, okay, well, I want to buy that one. And I said, well, then you go back to your other guy and buy it. A, he's the one who showed it to you. B, when it doesn't perform,
you ain't gonna be mad at me.
I don't need you going around screaming to everybody we know that I suck and, I'm a terrible advisor and I got him into this crappy investment. I said, you're walking into this one all on your own. You're not doing it with me.
Yeah.
So you got to be willing to give up because it's reputation.
That's it.
Reputation's worth more than that 18, 20 grand.
Always. And that's an amazing thing. I think is, you build those relationships, and that's why I love, here's this concept, here's this innovative strategy, and me. If you don't, hey, you go over there, and that's fine. We're still going to be friends. We're going to be civil. That's okay. It's not about,
absolutely.
You're going to make your money anyway, and it's an amazing thing.
If I wind up not working with you, it doesn't change our friendship in any way, shape, or form. If we do wind up working together, actually, you probably become more like a brother or sister to me. But,
right.
But no, it doesn't change anything. And again, there's just some people that don't work well together, right? So there's some people I'm not going to want to work with, and there's people that aren't going to want to work with me. And that's understandable. You need to be comfortable with the person you're working with. Interestingly enough, when you get into this business and you get into the advising side, they tell you right off the bat, go talk to family and friends.
Yeah.
Get going that way. Talk to your family and friends. It's like, why would I want to do that? I would sound like an idiot because I don't know what I'm doing yet. I'm just getting started. And I'm going to burn through all those people. And guess what? All those family and friends are going to tell everybody else. You might want to hold off on talking to him.
Right.
He's not quite there yet. Give him 15 years.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll be good to talk to then.
Yeah. So what's your philosophy on real estate? Tony Soprano once said, buy real estate because God's not making more.
Both sides of the street on that one. I mean, there are people that use real estate because that's their investment. That's what they do for a living. And that, if that's what works for you, do it. If collecting cars works for you and flipping cars or flipping homes, do it. If you're good at it, do it. And that's how you're going to make your money, because not everybody's good at investing.
Right.
So again, not everybody's good with numbers, but you just to buy and hold a home just because you want to live in it and say I'm the owner, just understand it's pretty much a losing proposition. I mean, all the interest you pay, all the upkeep you pay, all the taxes that you pay, there's maintenance, there's new furnaces, water heaters, air conditioners, and whatnot. The toilet leaks and it goes through the ceiling, and then bringing that up because I just went through this. And so, I mean, it's kind of a losing proposition. You think, I paid $300,000 for it, and 10 years later I sold it for $400,000. I made $100,000. Well, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. No. Especially if you're paying like $10,000 a year in taxes. Well, okay, 10 years later, there's your break-even point.
That $5,000 roof you had
and forget about the mortgage that you paid and all the interest and all the other stuff. So you can look at it a couple of different ways. It's just and do I own a home? Yes. I bought it last year.
Yep.
I rented for 9 years. After the housing debacle, I said I'm done. I'm out. And I got crushed just like many other people. And very painful part of my life. But and I didn't want to own again. And I actually bought right before all this mad, stupid money came into play and are bidding up. And I have a lot of equity in my home. And I'm sitting here telling my wife, we should sell. We should just take it. But where do you go?
Right.
You can't rent anywhere. You can't find any place to rent. And you can't find another home unless you're willing to overpay dramatically.
Yeah, dramatically. Yeah.
So
that's calming down a little bit too,
and it will.
Yeah.
Wait, just wait.
That's right.
And that one doesn't look pretty going forward.
Hang in there, folks. That's right. So,
Yeah.
the interesting and I think fun part of what you do is you really take your client's best interest to say, I want you to have a happy and fulfilling life.
Be a
not
good Christian.
Yeah, not just right now in your earning years, but when you are done working, whenever that may be, you want them to still enjoy the fruits of life, which is awesome.
All comes down to peace of mind.
Yep.
That's what I bring. That's what I hope to bring to the table to each and every one I work with. Is that's the ultimate goal? Peace of mind.
Yeah.
When you can live with peace of mind, life is way better.
You're a sleep expert. You help people sleep at night. Not worried about their money.
Little Sandman,
That's right.
I don't know if I go quite that far, but I mean, how would it be to live life where you didn't?
Yeah.
You knew what to expect financially. Mm-hmm. You knew you could cover your bills. You knew where it was coming from. You knew how it was going to work. Because we don't know that now. Right. We work week to week and we just keep our heads down and plow and keep going forward and hope for the best. And, and then all of a sudden we wake up and we're in our mid to late 50s and guess what? Yeah. We have a bullseye in our back. It's like, you're gone.
Well, I want all of our listeners to understand as well. We're giving you about a 50,000 foot overview. Can't really get into specifics on the show of the innovative strategies and concepts that Bill will work with you with. So, don't listen and go, hey, you guys really haven't given me anything. That's where sitting with Bill, having a conversation, and learning who he is and helping him learn who you are, that's where it comes. And I go back to your conversation about the guy that you've helped, that you've known, that you listened to, that you designed a strategy for, and someone steps in who doesn't know them and shows them this shiny apple, doesn't care about them, perhaps.
Right.
I don't know the relationship there. From the sound of the story was, here's a shiny apple. Yeah. And a lot of people jump at that. And, I'm sure that we're going to have a lot of listeners who go to their financial advisor and say, hey, such and such insurance and thing I heard on the show.
Yeah. And it's a good point you bring up. No, we don't talk about specific innovative type strategies because there isn't one that's an end all be all.
Right.
It is, everybody is different. Everybody's in a different place in life, whether it's age, health, financially, how many family members. Yep. There's just so many variable factors that to sit here and tell you that there's specific strategies, although we do give some out. Okay, the infinite banking concept that I've talked about, using a life insurance policy's cash value to help eliminate your debt. That's a very specific strategy.
Yeah.
So there are some points that we give out, but I don't want you to go run into your advisor and say, well, we got to try this, because you have to know how to put something like that together.
Yeah.
So that's why I want to be careful about giving out specific strategies, because if you're going to go run into an advisor and say, let's do this, and you have to know, your advisor needs to know how that works, and not everybody's trained or taught. Right. Not every advisor is trained or taught in how things work. So how everything works. In our industry, there's just too many things to know. And so no one advisor knows everything.
That is it. Of course, that music means that we're about in the last 30 seconds of the show. You've been tuned in 216 The Net. This is Innovative Strategies with Bill Haase. Reach him at haase.bill@gmail.com. Ted, good morning. Ted says, thank you, Bill, for sharing your financial expertise, wisdom, and advice.
Thanks for listening.
Absolutely. And of course, come back at noon for Mike and Fran Unrehearsed. And then at 12:30, questions you never thought you could ask in church.
Love that, Jim.
It's a good one. All right, for all of us here at 216 The Net, be safe, and remember, financial literacy is not what your grandpa told you.
Or didn't.
Or didn't tell you.